Minute. Great. All right, so people are going to start filtering in, so we will get started on time. I know we have an hour and a half booked for this. If we end early, everyone loves that. If not, we got it all in. So thank you guys for joining kind of our final part 4 finale for our Fitness, Beauty, and Wellness Franchise Summit. We've had some incredible speakers, incredible brands, and this I'm excited about because I was like, we're bringing in the big dogs. Usually it's like the last one. It's like, nobody really joins. It's fine. I was like, not today, Satan. We're going hard. And I just came back from the Springboard Franchise Conference, and a lot of people were looking forward to coming back and tuning in. So we will get right into it. Of course, I have to do my housekeeping things. For those of you who might not know, my name's Madeline Zook, multi-unit, multi-brand franchisee in home services. My husband and I own about upwards of 30 to 50 locations, depending on how you carve up territory across 4 different brands. Formerly was the director of brands at Threshold Brands, so the Zor side. Currently the director of marketing at Netsertive, which is the supplier side, and the host of the Art of Franchise Marketing podcast. So my whole life is franchising 24/7. And then our beauty slide, of course, Netsertive does localized digital marketing, both fran dev and consumer, hyper localized. We've got tons of franchise clients. There's a couple on the screen here. So if you ever have questions about marketing in your brands, come on over. We'd be happy to talk. But enough of that stuff. No one wants to hear about that stuff. We want to hear about you guys. So first and foremost, we've got Lance Freeman from Xponential Brands, a small company that just happens to be the world's largest boutique fitness platform brand. You guys have 10 brands. I think the last time Google checked, it was almost 2,900 locations. So Lance, before we get started, talk to me about who you are, how you got into franchising, and what the hell Xponential is up to.
We're up to a lot. Thanks for the introduction. Probably like most people on this call, I always like to say I kind of fell into this industry in 94. So yes, almost 30 years ago. Became a franchisee actually in a health and wellness system, and then started to scale in that system. Had about 6 units in that system, and then I bought what's called the master franchise development rights in that area, and developed about 50 stores in a market that I had in a DMA for about a decade. Private equity approached me to buy my business, and I had one of the more lucrative masters in that system, and really wasn't interested in selling it, but the multiple got to a place where it was too good to pass up on. So had a nice check cut there, and then kind of wanted to figure out what I was going to do next. And so partnered up with a development group to start developing emerging concepts in the health and wellness and beauty space. It's kind of the only lane I know. It's my personal passion as well, especially with fitness. And started to develop this little no-name brand called Club Pilates in 2015 that had about 16 units at the time. So kind of fast forward, we developed that to about 500, and then actually my now partner, his name's Anthony Geisler, decided that he was going to take on some private equity and start really building this global boutique fitness platform that will be the largest platform in the world, and started acquiring brands, and in that process acquired my company, and then so we partnered up to start developing Xponential. And so that's kind of how that got started. Today, you are correct. We've got 6,000 licenses awarded globally. We're in 20 countries today, 10 brands, just short of 3,000 stores operating today across the US, and growing. We'll open about 500 stores, actually about 550 stores this year, and we'll continue opening that trajectory over the next few years. In fact, we went public in July of 2021. Kind of on the tail end of COVID. And so we can't make a lot of forward-looking statements, but we did just come out and say, what we're going to do through 2026. And we'll continue opening about 500 plus stores a year. So that's kind of where we're at today as the biggest in the space, I guess you could say.
So how much do you think your time as a franchisee and area developer has helped with you building Xponential to a place where it's both enticing and sexy and fun for the consumer, but also the franchisee. I think a lot of times the stigma around fitness and wellness is that there's these, one-hit wonders and then they go away. That's clearly not been the case for Xponential as you grow exponentially. So talk to me kind of about that.
Oh, I think it is an enormous benefit. I always kind of said, I guess there are, colleges now where you can go to learn about franchising, but I kind of had, on the job training, if you will, becoming a franchisee. I always tell people I really cut my teeth in franchising when I bought my master, because I really started supporting franchisees. As you know how that model works. Initially, you develop a market, but the teeter-totter kind of tips once the market's developed to supporting that market, and you become really the on the ground boots, support, the liaison for the corporate office. And that's where I really learned, what separated your top performers from your average performers to those that struggled in a system, as I was supporting that market. And I think that helps me a lot today with our awarding process when we're looking at potential investors in our business, in terms of, are they going to be a deviator, or are they going to want to follow our blueprint for success here, and our playbook, as we like to call it. Are they going to have the right skill sets to really be successful in our model, or should they just maybe do their own thing and do something else, if you will. So I think that really helps a lot, and also helps in guiding people through our educational process to see if this is the right fit for them, having the personal experience I have as an owner in these things. I think it's benefited me a lot.
And, I feel so honored that we have kind of one of the founders of Xponential on here. When your team was like, oh, Lance will do it, I was like, no way, he's got to be too busy for this. Why did you stay in franchise development? It would have been so easy for you to just take a seat on the board, step back, or just say, I'm not doing the grind of Fran Dev. Why'd you stay in it?
I don't really see it as a grind. I'm a partner, obviously, and I really love working with people. I kind of, in a way, get to give back to my roots, and helping people realize their dreams of business ownership. And I think what we do, all of us do on this call in our space, is really help people make a positive impact on people's lives and the communities that they develop their businesses in, and that kind of gets me fired up every day. And I love working with people, and love the company that we're a part of. Listen, I'm kind of living my dream here as a partner in this thing. I'm a kinesiology and business major, so thus this is my passion. So I can't imagine
somehow managed to bring that together.
Yeah, like I said, it kind of fell in my lap. I don't know how, but it worked out.
And then we are going to come back to some of our key talking points, but I'm going to ask the question that no one's going to ask you. What's your favorite brand right now?
Oh, I get asked that a lot. That's like asking which one of my kids is my favorite. It's kind of hard to say. But to be candid, I would just tell you it's BFT, body fit training, and it's because it's the workout that I do. I'm again kinesiology major, and I've been kind of doing group resistance training for almost 30 years, and so that's my personal passion. Not that I don't love Pure Barre or some of our other verticals, of course, but yeah, BFT is kind of my workout. So
I like that. Yeah, people ask all the time. I have 3 kids. They're like, oh, we can never have a favorite. I go, not true. I have favorites all the time, and it varies depending on what we're doing that day. So BFT for you, for your personal workout routine, I'm sure that your favorites are span all different categories. So Lance, thank you so much. We will come back to you, but we're taking it over to my girl, Gabby Powers. She is here representing ThriveMore brands. ThriveMore is Beam, Light Sauna, Rockbox Fitness, and then Leverage Nutrition. But you guys also have an arm where you have people come in that are looking to franchise their wellness business. So Gabby, who are you? How'd you get to Rockbox? How are you liking franchising? What's your story?
Absolutely. And Lance, I wanted to say, took you for a Pure Barre guy, so I'm a little surprised, but it's okay. But it's great to be here with everyone here. I am Gabby Powers. I am the director of marketing over ThriveMore brands. As Madeline mentioned, 2 primary franchise brands, and then our supplement brand Leverage as well. Rockbox Fitness, Beam, Light Sauna. Been with the team for about 3 years, and started when we were just Rockbox. So really just had that primary boutique offering, boxing, kickboxing franchise based here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I'm zooming from today, but national when I joined. So we had about 20 locations open for Rockbox at that time. We're up to 60 now all across the nation. And so really coming into the ThriveMore team when it was just a single brand, and then really seeing it transition into a platform of brands, bringing Beam Light Sauna on this past year in April, and then having them, I believe we're up to 215, 216 awarded as of today on the franchise side. So I do oversee both consumer and fran dev, so a very full plate on my side, but knowing coming into my career and coming into the franchising industry was never a plan. But I did know that I wanted to do two things: wanted to make an impact and have a positive impact on not just my local community, but also communities across the country, and then also really be able to pour into entrepreneurs who are really the ones grinding day to day, developing businesses, being able to make those community touch points locally as well. And so being able to go into health and wellness, something that I've been a patron of on the consumer side for so many years now, and then being able to combine that with a large scale impact, I can't think of a better benefit of our industry and really how it's developed, especially in the last 3 years since COVID. We actually saw a lot of growth during COVID. Didn't have a single Rockbox studio close just because of people were craving wellness and health and seeing that as a new priority, but then also coming in and seeing that community piece that we really try to drive home in both brands, Rockbox and Beam, and really driving, that's a touch point for you, the accountability on the fitness side, and then on the Beam Light Sauna side, that kind of personalized and customized approach to infrared and red light sauna therapy. And so having those two brands currently, as Alan mentioned, looking for a third and a fourth as well, as we continue to really build out a complementary health and wellness stack of franchise concepts to be able to have people diversify and come in, really get to know our team in the home office side, and being able to grow with us and scale your portfolio and diversify within our brands so that ultimately you can have your own health and wellness empire.
I love that. And it's so funny because we were, connected with you and Roger, your founder and CEO, for a while. And then both of you said, hey, can you switch over to our ThriveMore email? And I was like, oh, they're in it. They are in it. So
I know.
What has that been like now in terms of you're bringing on more brands? You're still in charge of brand marketing and fran dev. Should your franchisees, this is going to sound really bad, but I'm going to say it. Yeah. Should they be concerned that support's going to get diluted? You're bringing on more brands, you're in the active growth stage. So for candidates listening now, what does that kind of process and future look for you guys?
Absolutely. And I think what we're seeing building a complementary platform of brands is that there are so many synergies aligned with that, which has allowed our team to actually build centers of excellence within our home office team, to be able to serve our franchisees. We have incredible partners like Netsertive that we work with on the Beam side especially, but we've also built internal digital advertising agencies, bookkeeping services that really have allowed us to centralize so many of those things to provide a mass scale of support to both franchise networks and really allow them to experience those synergies as well as ownership. So our team is obviously scaling as we come. And as we bring on more brands, we'll never, stop that part of the growth pattern. But being able to capitalize and really allow these franchisees coming in to be a big fish in a small pond and get all of our support and attention, that's what drives our team. We always say whatever it takes. And so being able to provide that level of support, continue to build it, so that they're working with us at a franchisor level and feel so confident in those relationships. That's what every single one of our franchisor relationships is built off of, that trust and ultimately scaling together and growing together to benefit everyone.
I love that. Gabby, thank you so much. And girl, don't worry, I got more questions for you in a little bit. Next we've got Chris Davenport. I'm so glad, Chris, you joined us. You're actually at your brand convention right now, correct?
We're in Nashville, Tennessee. As you can tell by my sexy background here, at a hotel for our annual convention, celebrating all of our franchisees and their successes right now.
So Chris is coming to us as my salon suite, which is part of Propelled Brands. And Chris reached out and said, yeah, pick me. I want to do this. And I thought it was a great compliment to the crew we've got on here. So Chris, talk to me about yourself, how you got into franchising, and, a little bit more about My Salon Suites.
Happy to. As I think everyone here has shared, sort of fell into the industry. I think as just about every franchise executive or professional does. I started about 13 years ago in the franchise space. Have had the blessing of working with a variety of different companies and brands over that time period, and now with Propelled Brands, which is of course the parent company to Fast Signs, Nerds to Go, and My Salon Suites, the three brands underneath our wheelhouse. My Salon Suites is one of the largest players in the salon suite industry today. We are just celebrating our 300th opening this week, in fact, as we're here at our annual convention. So very proud about that. We have seen explosive growth over the last few years. And for me, it's a lot about being able to help people sort of live that traditional American dream that I think we all kind of grew up hearing about. Small businesses are very tough these days. Economics make it even harder. And the franchise industry kind of allows folks to go down that path that I think a lot of us saw our parents doing. So I grew up in a home with two small business owners, as mom and dad. We'll watch their struggles and their successes now, and living a good retirement life because of the successes they had in that small business. So I think for franchising, it offers that avenue and that vein for folks to travel down that same pathway and experience that entrepreneurial dream that is that Americana persona.
And how does Propelled Brands work? Because obviously My Salon Suites is in the salon wellness sector, but Fast Signs is not, and neither is Nerds to Go. So what is your mission there for people thinking, well, I want to be in wellness, but why wouldn't I just join a ThriveMore or an Xponential?
My Salon Suites was kind of a unique outlier, obviously, as you pointed out here, between Fast Signs and Nerds to Go, which is an outsourced IT service, and Fast Signs, of course, being an outsourced marketing service. The ability we have to leverage kind of those relationships with our other two sister companies really helps our individual franchisees and My Salon Suites thrive with their businesses. Being able to leverage the marketing knowledge that we have from the Fast Signs group that's been a global brand for many, many years. And Nerds Go, of course, offering the IT services to the franchisees, but also the members within their suites. My Salon Suites, it's a very unique opportunity to help our franchisees further help individual entrepreneurs themselves step into their own businesses, launch their health and beauty brands within our suites and facilities. I'm often hearing here at our annual convention that our greatest kind of reward for our franchisees is watching one of their tenants grow so big that they actually have to exit our facility. It's kind of a two-pronged sword, right? It's a blessing that we get to watch and support and promote these individuals. Of course, there's a pain that we have to go find another health and beauty professional to fill our suites, but nothing could be more rewarding for our franchisees. So it is a unique pairing. There's no doubt about it. But I think that the alignments have worked very, very well. And there's going to be a lot of future growth under the Propel brands coming soon.
Yeah, and what I think is interesting about the My Salon Suites, we had solo salons on either, last week or a week before, is that it really is a unique sector, and where you're in the health and wellness, but you're also kind of in a B2B, which slightly is a B2C as well. A little bit of retail, a lot of networking, a lot of that sort of real estate aspect as well. So we'll get into all of that. And finally, rounding out our crew today is Carolyn Tedesco. She's standing in for Josh York because Josh was like, oh, hey, I'm on a plane. I was like, oh, that doesn't surprise me. So Carolyn, you're representing Gymguyz. You guys have made a splash in the industry. You head up franchise development. So what is a day in the life of Carolyn like, and how'd you get into franchising as well? Did you just trip and fall? Because it seems like that's what we all did.
Tripped and fell, just like everybody else here. So I was a small business owner for many, many years, and things took a turn for me back in 2007, 2008. And I started looking for something, and I fell into franchising. I started off at Anytime Fitness, and I was going in to actually help their underperforming units or identify those units and help them kind of turn things around or develop an exit strategy. And that's how I segued into development. From there, I've now been in franchising for 13 years, primarily in the fitness space, and not by design. It just so happened that's how it kind of went. I really like this brand in particular, Gymguyz. I love the mobile aspect of it. I love the convenience factor, especially in this era that we're in post-COVID, because that delivery, that immediate I want everything delivered kind of service, Gymguyz just kind of buys right into that. So that's how I got into franchising.
And what is Gymguyz up to today? I think you have over 150 locations. I'm sure you have more in development. What is the path to growth for you guys right now?
Yeah, so we've grown a lot this year. I think we're a little over 20 this year and looking to double that by the end of the year, which is, excuse me, kind of crazy, but it's been incredibly busy and an incredibly exciting time for us because while we are just one brand, we are trying to expand our services. So getting into corporate wellness right now has been a huge path for us. Several of our franchisees have gotten into those large corporations, and we just recently added stretch therapy, which is another growing area. In a brick and mortar aspect, we are actually bringing it in home, which is, there is no other brand doing it in home like we are. So being able to add those services and look for other services to expand our model has been a really exciting time for us.
So for our candidates that might be listening in, what do you mean by a mobile kind of gym? Because I think most people assume, well, I thought Gymguyz was just another gym that you go to. No, they're really bringing it to you. So what does that look like? Because my franchises are all mobile. And let me tell you, you might think it's easier not having a brick and mortar. People are weird. You go into people's houses, shit goes down sometimes. So what does that look like for, a gym franchise? Because not only, we're home cleaning, you're going into people's intimate spaces. People are like, stretch me or, work me out. How is that different from a trainer? And, what does that kind of talk track look like in terms of the sell?
Well, interestingly enough, the trainers that we have can easily get certified as a stretch therapist. And so they can provide both services. It can be a standalone service or it can be an add-on service to their personal training session. So very easy to do both. The in-home model, I know it is crazy. We've had some crazy things happen, but it's easier than you think. And the van comes, it's got the equipment. We do a lot of that kind of could be hit-based training, could be strength training, could be mobility. We've got a lot of B2B. So assisted living facilities are a big area for us. Apartment complexes that may have a on-site gym where we provide just the classes for the tenants. Everything's kind of integrated and set up so that you can easily do that right in our system. So B2B is growing by leaps and bounds right now. So we've got a lot of exciting things going on there as well. That in-home, service that is provided, especially at the personal training level, I think is super. It keeps people accountable. You don't want to get up in the morning and have to get dressed, go to the gym, shower, go back home, or go to work. This way, somebody's knocking on your door and you can't avoid it. It's not like you can say, no, don't want to do it today. If they're knocking on your door, you're going to do it.
Yeah. And I also think, it's a nice, it's just a compliment to also going in. Cause there's times, I played professional basketball and I was like, I need the team. I need someone yelling in my ear with other people. And then there's other times that I'm like, I look like a troll and I'm not going out in public. So I need that person to come here. But also with the personal trainer, a lot of the times it's, well, I don't have the in-house gym. Do I do it in my driveway? Do I do it, so having, the equipment be brought to you along with the trainers, I think is a really great flex for the space. So Carolyn, I'll have more questions for you, but, now we're kind of going into the overall talking point, which is basically dominating the wellness market. And Lance, I'm going to take it back to you. Before we kind of get into the nitty gritty, I want to know what your strategy is for ensuring that Xponential stays at the top. Because a lot of the times people don't realize being number one is actually the scariest place to be. And the only way I can describe it is like when you were first in Mario Kart, that shit gets crazy because you're like, who's behind me? Something's going to throw something, something's going to break. It's that constant race to the finish line. So how do you coach your team, your franchisees, and just your brands as a whole of this is where we live. This is where we want to stay. But in doing that, we also need to grow and make changes.
Yeah, that's a great question. You're right. When you're kind of the biggest out there, you have you have a big bullseye in your back, a big target, and so people are coming after you. But there's a number of ways that I think that, and for everyone on this call, that I think we stay ahead. And one of the things I hear a lot from investors sometimes is, oh, this space is really crowded, and I see these things on every corner. And my response is always, I couldn't disagree more with that. The reality is that 90% of what's in the market today is independent, and so there's very few relatively, what I would call nationally franchised brands, true brands that have, over 100, units operating that are out there that we're competing with. So the competition is largely independent, and no shade on them. God bless them for trying, but we all know on this call, they just can't compete, with a nationally franchised, brand or system. That's why, you heard others on this call that said they didn't have, permanent closures during COVID. We didn't either. And 30% of the market retracted. In fact, I saw a stat where 82% of small business independent fitness owners failed in their first year. Those are staggering odds. Where you talk to folks on this call, you have either 100% or a very high percentage of success. So that in itself, I think, adds a lot of value. You're hearing also from a lot of the people on this call that there's strength in numbers, and so you have kind of a shared brain trust here. So we have 10 brands, 10 presidents, 10 CMOs, 10 of everything down the line. So we don't really have a shared services model outside of departments that strategically make sense, like mine, or finance or real estate. Outside of that, these presidents all get together once a week, and share best practices, what's working well in one brand. So if you're a franchisee coming into one system, you're not just benefiting from all the learnings and great ideas from franchisees in that system. You're getting the benefit of 9 other systems and those best practices and learnings that are happening there. So I always say, at the very top, it's leadership, it's experience, and it's resources. Unfortunately, a lot of these emerging brands, and again, not throwing shade on them, but they're bootstrapped, so they can't spend millions of dollars every year on market research or bucks to ensure they're doing it right from the get-go, so they don't end up later with those, oh, we didn't know what we didn't know at the time. So, or to be able to put enough staff in place to support the high trajectory of growth that we have with these brands, to make sure that we don't have a lot of growing pains as we continue to grow. I mean, you heard me say we're going to open 550 stores this year, and I can't make that up. We've got people that ask me, well, how do you know that? So, well, we've got 496 leases signed right now, so we know what's in the pipeline and we know what's coming, and that's going to continue because we got 3,000 snows. So, sold out open territories that are opening with these partners, and so we're going to continue with that growth. And so I always say it's very hard for you just don't see that type of growth in general, even in franchising, where companies are adding hundreds of, we awarded 1,000 licenses last year, so you don't see that kind of trajectory of growth. So when you're Coca-Cola, it's pretty hard, to unless you do something really, really bad, it's pretty hard to kind of lose that control, if you will. So, we plan on continuing to push that ahead. And I just think it'll be very difficult for others in the, I would say in the independent sector to be a threat to what we're doing. Those resources enable us to continue to do R&D and to continue to evolve these brands and add new features and things and new partnerships. Our B2B partnerships are, if you listen to some of the things that we have partnerships with Princess Cruise Lines or Lululemon, or the Mirror, or Gym Pass, Class Pass, and on and on and on. And so those, again, all drive butts and seats, as we like to say, to our franchise partners without them having to spend incremental dollars. So that's a huge advantage when you think about coming into a system like that, where they're building brand awareness through all these strategic partnerships. And so all of those things, I think, really add up to continuing to evolve, grow, and stay relevant and kind of stay ahead of the curve, if you will.
No, I appreciate that insight. And I think what I've gathered from that as well is it's a little bit of, we can see the rear view mirror, but we're looking ahead. We're looking at us. We're confident in who we are. If you want to beat us, go ahead and try. And in this industry, you have to have that grit and a little bit of that, or a lot of it of that competitive nature, because that is a lot of what drives the passion behind your franchisees and your consumers, that passion to get better, to compete with themselves, others. And my last question on this is, because you have been a franchisee and then you were the kind of founder, you are the founder partner of Xponential, now that you've gone public, there's a lot of people looking at you going, well, that's not good enough. Or what else? How much more can we do? So how do you combat that to make sure that not only are you staying in your lane and you're delivering on the dominance that you have, but you also now have a whole lot of other people that are looking at you from a different angle, not necessarily the franchisee angle, expecting success. So how do you balance that? Because a lot of these franchise companies are not public.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely the public world is a different world. I would say we're fortunate where our CEO is still the majority shareholder, so my life hasn't changed, too much as we've gone into that world. But we really want to just stay focused on what we're doing, which is continuing to open the stores, open well, continuing to grow our AUVs. Fancy way of saying average unit volume or gross revenue in these things. We've seen 10 straight quarters of AUV growth. For our existing stores, we're seeing 15% comps year over year, quarter over quarter. So we just want to keep growing those AUVs for our existing partners, keep developing new revenue streams for them, keep opening new units, and then we'll be acquiring brands 11 and 12 here pretty soon as well, and continuing to grow kind of our health and wellness component of the business. Always finding ways to be complementary to our other systems and kind of leveraging XPass and some of the other opportunities that we have internally in our business. But I think those are some of the things that will continue to just do what we do best and not kind of get distracted with everything else in the marketplace.
Yeah, and that kind of leads nicely over to Gabby. I wanted to talk as you're building out ThriveMore. I had a similar experience in Threshold where we were building out our home services. We built the umbrella brand. Then we were making a mosquito and tick company from the ground up. Whoever made that call, I don't know, but it was a nightmare. And a lot of the times it was, well, what the hell is Mosquito Shield doing? What is Mosquito Squad doing? How much of that do you take into your day-to-day as you're trying to grow ThriveMore? Are you looking at the Xponentials and the other people in the space and kind of trying to not mimic what they're doing, but take those learnings into your own brands? Or are you guys really saying, we want to do things our own way? I think there's two types of franchisors. There's the ones that are not going to recreate the wheel and the ones that are. So where do you guys fall in that?
Absolutely. And I think there's no use in working in a vacuum and trying to reinvent a wheel that's already spinning in the way that it is. And so there's a lot of experience on our leadership team, both past franchising and also in other industries entirely, that it's allowed us to bring in some of those new ideas to our brands and really diversify that way, while also ensuring that we have experience in the franchising space and that scalability factor doesn't diminish because of it. I think what we've seen, especially bringing on Beam, we really did build it from the ground up. And like you said, that's definitely not an easy feat. We found a lot of learnings from Rockbox and building Rockbox that we've been able to apply to Beam. Obviously a very different modality and a very different customer experience. I always say, if you're looking at the two brands on a spectrum of branding and tone and voice and all of that, you really aren't going to find two more different brands on that side. But so many synergies between the two of them. Really a big experience that we've had here is employee retention and engagement and that education piece. I think as a franchise, you have to scale that national awareness on the fitness side. People are more familiar with fitness. They understand it. They know that if I work out and I do it consistently, I'll see results. With Beam and infrared light therapy, the benefits are unknown to most people. And so really trying to figure out, okay, we see, staffing and training can be a pitfall for some franchisees. How do we accomplish that in Beam and in a different brand? We came up with an AI system called Lumi in our Beam studios to be able to provide customer education that's consistent across every single studio, so that every single consumer coming in for that first time experience has a very consistent education of what is infrared therapy, what is red light therapy, how does it benefit me, and then how can I customize that to meet my pain points, my health and wellness goals. And so that's something that we've seen a lot of learning from Rockbox to Beam. Obviously, looking at others in the industry, there's a lot of ways to grow. That's why I think complementary brands on our scale of, we have a fitness brand, we have an infrared sauna brand. Brands 3 and 4 will be different modalities within wellness to be able to learn, but then also really innovate. I think every brand now has to find that niche and has to find their part in the industry to be able to grow past current, what we'll call industry leaders.
And, talking about a niche, so Gymguyz has almost I want to say everyone is your competitor and no one is at the same time. So what is that like for you guys building that out? Because yes, you are what I want to say, one of a kind, but at the same time, you can't call up Lance and be like, I'm struggling with this part of the business. Can you give me some, advice? I mean, I'm sure you could because it's Lance, but you see what I'm saying. So how do you guys attack that kind of obstacle problem solving as you guys scale, as you guys grow in such a specific niche?
You're right. Our competitors are those independents out there. There is really no national brand that's doing in-home personal training like this. And I think the difference between them and, those one-man shops, so to speak, is that ability to scale and grow. We have our franchisees focusing on working on the business rather than in the business. We are adding in services. We have the ability to help our franchisees grow and scale, where I don't think an independent's going to have that ability.
So in that, are you guys, as one of your Fran Dev markets, are you targeting independents to convert potentially over to a Gymguyz, the people that already have a passion for the space, or do you guys kind of leave that alone and you're just like, I don't want to touch that?
Well, I think in the beginning that was the idea. The idea was, let's go after personal trainers out there and we can help them grow their business. And while that's great, sometimes you've got those people who, I know this thing that I want to do, and they go out and they try and do it, but they don't have the business acumen to kind of back it up. And so being able to find a franchisee that is willing to grow their business and understand that they need to grow their business instead of, doing the day-to-dayness of it, is the key. So it's looking for franchisees that are going to understand, this is my business and I need to grow my business. I need to understand these things. And if I don't understand them, I need to surround myself with people that do. So, when you're in a franchise system, that's exactly what it's there for, is that support and that help that the franchise can give you.
And I love that point, Carolyn. And Chris, how does that work with My Salon Suites? Because in terms of a competitive landscape, you are also competing with, the Solas, the other types of salon suites, the independents, which when it comes to salon, like they are loyal AF. So what is that like for you guys in terms of getting new clients, educating, but also your franchisees kind of are getting like little mini franchisees that fill the salons. I know that they are the salon professionals or what have you. But it is definitely a different layer there.
It is. And I think the panelists have all kind of hit on some of the key topics here, right? I mean, the economies that we're able to put into the business really set kind of the franchise space in this industry in particular apart from all of the independents. The training, the partnerships that we can go out and secure for these independent operators in the health and beauty space, and offer them discounts in areas that are normally extremely high cost points for their small businesses, allows them a platform to be able to thrive and grow. If you look at a health and beauty professional in any line of that definition today, their ability to go out and secure 1,000 or 1,200 square feet, open up their own storefront, get operational, secure product, then tag on the marketing costs and all that to get customers in the door, it's just not feasible in most markets today. And so the franchise platform, whether it's ourselves or any of our competitors out there, really can be that launching pad. We often say that we're both a launching pad and an exit strategy in some senses, right? Because you've got your new startup health and beauty professionals who are just trying to get off the ground. Maybe they got enough customers to rent a suite. They can come in here and you really use us as that launching pad to grow the business. Conversely, if you've got somebody who's been in the industry 25, 30 years, they're not going to go out and open up a new spot, right? They're just not at that point in their wheelhouse of life and in professional. And so the suites can offer them an opportunity to continue to service those customers through the tail end of their career, offering them an ability to build a brand that they may be lucky enough to go sell to another individual. But being able to provide the support, the guidance, the product discounts, and the service discounts that we can on the back end. Credit card processing fees, for example, is a great one. Independents just don't have a skin in the game on that side of things. As Lance mentioned, they just don't have the leverage that we can have to go out and secure those kinds of discounts for them. So this is a very strong industry. It is growing by leaps and bounds. We've talked a little bit about acquisitions. That was one of the keynote speakers today, was on how we're approaching the acquisition of these independents in the market so that we can gain more market share, just kind of set the tone and the price point in the market, and increase our overall market presence in any given city or state within the U.S. right now.
You know, you mentioned exit strategy, and Lance, I don't think I've met someone who hasn't owned one of your brands. You know, a lot of times when I'm doing these podcasts and stuff, it's like, oh, I used to be a Yoga 6 or I'm a row house. I'm like, of course you are. So in terms of unit level economics and making sure that you're bringing in the right franchisees that are going to be successful, whether they stay the 1 FDD through 7 FDDs, I think a lot of times we don't talk about that exit strategy. So how do you guys, across all of these brands, ensure that you're bringing on that right franchisee? Because you have so many brands, you have so many locations, you're bringing on an incredible amount that a lot of times I think it would be easy for a lesser parent company to just say, at this point, it's fine. They're kind of their own machines, bring them in. You know, I don't really care who you bring in. It's going to be successful regardless. But that's not the case, because when people are exiting and they're selling for multiples, you know, that is the train in which you guys, you know, are going on. So speak to me about that and making sure that the franchisee you bring in is always going to be the end all be all.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I think, you know, some franchisors, you know, like you said, will, you know, be more lenient with bringing a partner in that, you know, has, you know, a pen and a check, if you will. But, you know, we are really pretty picky with partners because we call it quality of life on the other side. We don't want to deal with those PIAs. And so we are, you know, we really focus on awarding to partners that we feel will be the right fit. And I know it's hard for franchisors out there that are starving for growth to say, no, we're not going to award this one because this one, you know, is going to be a risk. But we're fortunate where, you know, we don't, you know, lack for interest, so we can be, you know, be picky. When it comes to resales, though, you know, we're a relatively young system overall. It's amazing, you know, to think we've got 3,000 stores operating, and literally we just kind of started our national rollout with the first brand in 2015, you know, about 8 years ago. But so it's been an enormously fast trajectory of growth, but we've really been focused on bringing in a lot of what I call kind of corporate refugees, forgive the term, but these are folks that really are, you know, they have great business acumen. I heard one of the panelists mention this. You know, we don't want our partners coming in and being slaves to their business. We don't want them, you know, GMing this themselves. We don't want them working in the business. We want them working on the business. We want them scaling and really becoming empowered. And then, as you know, as you're talking about, you know, exit strategy, I've always believed, obviously I've exited from multiple businesses. I think you have to kind of plan for that at the beginning. You know, you know, it can be fluid, but whether it's a 5 to 7 to 10 year plan to get in, build this, realize some great semi-passive income, and then sell it for a beautiful multiple on EBITDA and right off in the sunset. I mean, that's a great strategy. And then go build something else, you know, and realize all that growth in that system. It's like buying a stock, you know, at its early stages and then selling, you know, at its peak. But so we have a resale department that's also underneath me. Right now, again, it's a pretty small percentage of our system because we're in that, you know, that phase with most of our brands that they're going through that growth trajectory. A lot of franchisees are opening their second, third, fourth, fifth, you know, 6 studios. And they're not really quite ready to sell that business and flip it for a multiple on EBITDA. But we'll see more of those as these systems mature. We're starting to see it like in one of our most mature systems like Club Pilates and those things. We're seeing some really nice multiples there. We are, you know, we have to approve that new partner coming in. They really have to, you know, meet the same standards, if not better than, you know, the exiting partners, so that we know that we're at a minimum going to continue, you know, on a parallel path, or, you know, even a better trajectory, even if we can upgrade in that owner. So, you know, we are picky when it comes to those transfers, making sure that they're going to be set up for success and that we don't, you know, kind of downgrade there, if you will. So that is part of our strategy with these the resales that we have. We don't, like I said, have a high percentage of them at this point. That's a good thing. If you're a candidate investigating a system and you call 10 owners and 7 of them say, hey, I'll sell you my business, usually not a good sign. So we have hardly any resales like in the Club Pilates or Stretch Lab systems that are pretty developed at this point. But we'll see more and more of that as the systems mature, and that'll be something that we'll have to really focus on, making sure that we're getting good partners to come in. But usually the folks, as these systems mature, and this, what we start seeing is we start seeing larger franchisors that are gobbling up weaker operators. And you have more empire builders. Like I've got some franchisees in Club Pilates now that literally own 50 to 100 studios respectively now, and they just keep buying up some of the weaker operators and turning those studios up, and some of them are across like 5 to 7 states at this point. So we'll see kind of more and more of that as these systems mature, and some of the kind of single unit operators, onesie, twosie, threesies kind of end up kind of moving on and having a nice return on their initial investment as they exit. But that's how we're approaching it.
I just want it to be on the record that Lance Freeman said onesies, twosies, and threesies. And I have to, a couple of points before we move on is that I recently talked to McDonald's and I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to the biggest franchise in the world. I thought that it would be completely black and white from what the day-to-day franchising that I talk is. And the truth is it's very similar to Xponential, and you are number one respectively in your space, that everyone they bring into their system, they vet. For McDonald's, if you come in and you're a franchisee and all of a sudden your wife says, I want to be, she has to go through the process. There's a chance that they say no to your wife and yes to you, and it's the same thing with Xponential is whether you're bringing them in the beginning, it's a resale. You're making sure that anyone that touches any part of your brand is going to better it instead of just be a part of it. And I think that that's a huge piece to bring to light, especially for, the Gabby's and the Carolyns of the world. Of you guys know the importance of it every day, because you guys probably have a text chain with all of your owners at this point. When you get to 7,000 owners, that probably won't be the case. But it certainly could, no matter what. And I think that is the heart of it, the heart of franchising. And I have to ask this question because I know I'm going to get asked it a million times over. So many times I get franchisors and they say, I want to do franchise development. I only want multi-unit operating candidates. And I'm like, so you want me to find you the ideal franchisee at a low cost or no cost, and you want, hundreds of them? That is like being like, I want the perfect franchise candidate and you're competing with no one. So what do you guys do on that side? Because I'm sure a lot of people look at Xponential and they go, well, clearly they've cracked the code on Fran Dev because they've got a ton of really qualified multi-unit owners. Are you bringing in those candidates that are multi-unit from the get? Or is it a lot of, we have a very well-funded candidate who has the potential to grow, but it's not the goal from the start to bring in someone who's going to operate 10, 20, 100?
Yeah, there's a couple schools of thought there. I mean, one is obviously you are correct, that perfect candidate that is going to be a multi-unit franchisee that's scaling typically is going to be more sophisticated. And overall, if you have 3,000 stores operating, but you're supporting 1,000 franchisees, it's a lot easier to support that, right, than it is 3,000 franchisees. But I always tell people we are not in the franchise fee business, we're in the royalty business. So those development schedules take longer to get open. So we are very comfortable awarding singles for the right partner, and a lot of them have continued to scale within our system. Just to give you a sense, I'd say about 75% of our first-time partners that come into our system will start with what we call a 3-pack, kind of a 3-unit area development strategy, and the other 25% will start with a single. We don't do a lot of big deals. I know some franchisors will do 10 packs and 20 packs. We don't do those out of the gate. For the rare franchise partner that again has a lot of franchising experience and great financials, that they can open these things quickly, not have to wait for one to open the next. Because I don't consider that area development. I consider that single unit development. We'll consider those opportunities, but for the most part, we've had, I think it's 41% of our Club Pilates franchisees have done expansion deals with us. Just to give you a sense, that's that's off the charts good. I mean, most franchise systems are less than a single digit percentage in terms of comebackers. We as a whole, and again, this takes in consideration a lot of our very young systems, it's almost 30% of our Xponential franchisees that have done expansion deals with us. So we welcome that. And I would say it's a no-brainer business decision for us when we've got a great partner that's doing well. It's a proven entity to do more of that. And so we welcome that when they're ready to expand. It's becoming a larger percentage of our existing partners now that own multiple units in multiple brands with us, especially as some of these, our more mature brands are sold out. They're starting to diversify and expand into some of our other modalities, which is great to see as well, because they trust the franchisor. They see this as kind of an advantage in terms of cross-pollinating, leveraging the labor pool and marketing abilities and those types of things in our business. But yeah, we're not at all opposed to singles for the right candidate. I do coach, though, when it comes to territory, though, because sometimes candidates think that, hey, if the market's open, I can have whatever territory I want and do a single. That's not true, at least for our system. We are very strategic about how we really build the brand in the DMA. And so if we kind of stick a single in the middle of an area that we would normally award as an area development area, it kind of hacks up the market, for lack of a better way of saying it. So we're strategic in terms of how we really build the DMA, set those single unit owners up for success, but also preserve those areas that are really reserved for awarding to area developers.
I like that. And that's such great insight into balancing the single unit and the area developers. And it's nice to hear you say, like, yeah, we'll do maybe a 3-pack, but we're certainly not out selling 60-pack, 100 packs on the regular, because I think that is the assumption. And then a lot of people say, well, how do I find that candidate? You don't, that is a very kind of unicorn situation. Now, Chris, for you guys, it's a little bit different, because I would say you're in the wellness space, but with My Salon Suites, it's very real estate heavy. It's very a lot of B2B. So what is your development strategy look like while you're trying to find people who want to be in the wellness space, but ultimately they're kind of like landlords?
Exactly. And that's a big play for us, right? Is that they do want to be in the space where they can take sort of a semi-passive approach to things, but they don't want the hassles or headaches, if you will, of employees in their centers. My Salon Suites is a bit of a unique model, and then we have 0 employees on site at all times. And so, as Lance said, our main focus primarily is a 3-pack sale for market security. We've grown from 171 units at the start of this year to 290 units open this year, just celebrating our 300th, right? And at that speed of growth, we have to be very strategic, just as Xponential does, in placing a single franchisee into a market where viably, we could have a franchise prospect come in and buy, 3 units and place those in there. But these aren't your average franchise candidates. Typically, we are a higher investment model. There is a lot of cost to the real estate side of this, but at the same time, there's a lot of very good returns on the EBITDA, as well as selling for a good multiple within this business. And so at the same time, though we don't have 10 brands and the footprint that Xponential has, we have to take a very similar approach to market strategy to ensure not just the success of the market, but the success of each independent franchisee that does join our model. But this is a very different franchise approach, right? I like to tell our prospects that we're not franchising as they know it today. This is landlording. This is, subtenant focus. And you are sort of looked at as a guide for these smaller business owners that look at the success you've had in business to get to the position you are to be able to open a My Salon Suite.
I love that. And Gabby, talk to me a little bit about your arm of, you go to ThriveMore Brands, and one of the key pillars you have there is franchise your business. So oftentimes platform companies, rarely they'll build it from the ground up, because they usually do it once, like you and I have, and they go, never again. I'm sure Lance has been there as well. But ultimately it's a lot of, acquisition. But for you guys is a little bit of a different approach there, where you're saying, do you have a brand that you want to bring to us, and then have us potentially franchise it and have it become part of our, ThriveMore family? So what is your plan of action there? How has that been going? And, why do you kind of recommend that model over just a simple acquisitions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of going back, there's no idiot attacks, right? There's always something that someone can bring to the market that's unique, that already has a bit of a proven concept there. I know I say we built Beam from the ground up because we really did. But before Beam, there was a studio called Sweat and Salty that our president and founder of Beam, Cynthia May, actually created and had here actually over in Huntersville, where I am today. We took that brand and she came up and she knew that she needed the expertise to scale. She knew she had an incredible concept that was going to be a first mover in many communities across the country, but needed the ability to have that franchising knowledge. And so our leadership team has developed that and has that in their back pocket to be able to lend out to entrepreneurs who really understand the concept, understand the resources, the support structures, like we mentioned, that are going to have to go into that in order to scale a brand. And so we absolutely invite, though we are new to the process, of entrepreneurs who have a wellness concept that's complementary to one of our current ones to be able to come and bring it to us. I think I mentioned we've built those centers of excellence. We have the advertising agency internally at our home office team. We have bookkeeping and other services. We've internalized franchise development sales as well to really maximize the support that we can offer for those entrepreneurs who are, whether they're local to the Southeast or they're national, who know they have a concept but want those additional resources to be able to scale. And so that is a newer offering we have on the ThriveMore side, and we're excited to explore it and to bring on more values-based brands. All of our brands are very much values-based. We recruit franchisees, of course, if they're well-financed, of course, if they have past experience, but really, do they resonate with our values, the home office team? Do they come to our discovery days and feel the congruence of our community and how we're going to impact the nation that way? And so that's a really exciting offering that we're going to be offering coming up very shortly to other experienced brands who need the scalability factor of the team resources.
And how does leverage nutrition play into it? Because Lance mentioned they have partnerships, with Lulu and all of these fabulous brands that kind of complement the franchises very well. You kind of have that internally, where obviously it's a newer brand, leverage nutrition. Does that play into each one of your brands so far, or is that really its own standalone business?
So right now it's primarily linked up with Rockbox. That's something that we saw as a need coming into that boutique fitness kind of space, and seeing that, people are going to buy supplements when they're in their fitness journey from Amazon, from other sources. And, how can we help provide guidance in that? Ensure that they have the best ingredients, that they are made in factories that are regulated as much as possible. Supplements are not regulated on a national scale. And so being able to make sure you're not getting some from, a bathtub in someone's house, that instead you're going to getting reputable ingredients that we've seen proven and have science backed to be able to get you those results that you're wanting. And so really wanting to serve our members in the best way. And by giving them the most quality resources, it's kind of how Leverage was born. Our CEO, Roger, came from a pharmaceutical background. And so supplements were very much in his safe space. He had a lot of fun making that line, and we've continued to grow it, roll out new product offerings based on consumer desires and requests, and have really seen that continue to help grow Rockbox as another lever for revenue streams coming in for those owners every single day.
I love that. And you mentioned need, and Carolyn, I want to pass the mic to you, because clearly you guys, Josh and your team have found a need and you're running with it. In doing so, a lot of that is, of course, your core franchisees who have come there, they get it, they're on board, the early adopters. And now that you're kind of phasing into your more mature franchise phase, how much of that is still educating and just pushing out brand awareness versus, having a very strategic, nope, we need to, segment out our franchise development budget and really push money into those certain outlets to receive leads. I always say that there's kind of two different, when you get all the way to the top of the funnel, there's two different. There's the Xponentials, the McDonald's, the Dunks, that everyone, they're knocking on the door, they want to be part of the cool brand. And then there's all the rest of us that we have to pay for leads. You're in a unique situation where your name probably is an SEO nightmare, Gymguyz. Thankfully, it's one word, so it makes it a little easier. But you're also a mobile offering. Probably I imagine the investment level is a bit lower than having to build out a brick and mortar. So how much of that would you say is you're still on that brand awareness even after 150, 200 sold, or have you moved more towards the strategic, ROI lead attribution model?
No, I'd say the former. So, yes, it is trying to get that brand awareness out there. And just because Josh will kill me if I don't mention it, Gymguyz is an acronym. And he goes on and on about this. So get you motivated, or oh, he's going to kill me. So goals uniquely yours, get you motivated, zero excuses. So it's one of those things where if you look up the term guys in the dictionary, it doesn't talk about men or women. It talks about a group of people. So for us, Gymguyz is, we're all one of the guys at our place. Trying to give that brand awareness and get it out there. It's interesting because I'm seeing a shift just this year, where I'm actually getting phone calls from people who are saying, I used to see Vans all over the place and I moved across the country and I'm not seeing him anymore. And then letting them know that, yeah, we don't have anybody in that territory. And they're like, oh, great. So we're starting to see a little bit of that shift where people have heard of us and have seen us around. It's also trying to make people understand that it's a lot more than, I think people have this idea in their head that it's a gym, they come in, they do this little thing. They don't understand the larger aspect of what we do. So, even the stretch services, which are really new, is just one aspect of it. But the B2B is incredible. And the movement that we are going into that space has just been exploding this year. So the opportunities out there are more than just walking into a person's home, doing that one-on-one little training session, and then going on to the next house. There's so many opportunities in this space. Mobile training, mobile stretch, corporate wellness, that, showing people how big it really is, has been probably the more rewarding part of the job that I have.
And I love that you brought up guys as a whole. First of all, I didn't know it was an acronym. I think that's really cool. Josh is gonna be like, what do you mean you didn't know? I'm like, well, Lance, how much of your operations is, and I say this in a very black and white term, I obviously know there's fluidity, but for the simplistic part of this is, do you see an average between percentage of female owners to male owners? Because I think in the wellness center, or excuse me, industry, we see much more of a shift to female ownership than we would traditionally in maybe the home services or something else of, that's typically deemed more masculine. So are you guys pretty equal in that? Or do you see that it really depends on the brand?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty equal, believe it or not. I mean, we kind of joked about Pure Bark, and I'll just be blunt, 98% of our members are women in that brand, but we've got, male owners in that brand as well. You might see, again, a little higher percentage again of female owners in that brand versus like a BFT, it's probably more of a mix. But in general, I would say, again, we're looking for, great business owners and business partners that, have a little passion for health and wellness. And so it's not agnostic to men or women. So it's pretty balanced out there in terms of what our investor group looks like. Yeah.
And do you find that as you're going global, or you are global, is that culture of health and wellness, does it really transcend the cultural differences, the overseas, all of those things that might make a different country seem so much different? Is the passion for being healthy really that different, or is it so and you guys are having to flex your brand to meet that?
No, I mean, it really is a global thing. We're in 20 countries now. It's interesting, when we started rolling out Club Pilates, the Club Pilates started in Southern California. And so people, I remember every call, people would say, well, this works in California, but I don't think it's going to work in my market. And I would say, well, listen, Pilates actually started in New York, to be candid, then it moved to California, but it's in every market in the country, including around the world at this point. And so we're in 49 states in the US at this point. But it's interesting because we look at our AUVs, our average unit volumes in other countries relative to the US, and it's remarkable how the performance internationally is really on par with what we're doing in the US. So we're really pleased with the performance. Now, obviously, we can't go into every single market internationally, but socioeconomically and just based on kind of segmentation profiling, there are many markets that we can go into, and we've seen performance really on par with what we're doing in the US. So right now, believe it or not, international is about 20% of our portfolio of business, and that percentage is going to continue to grow because there's a lot of opportunity there for us.
What country, or maybe a couple, that have you been most impressed by, where you're like, wow, Xponential really went here, and I'm, super proud to say that? Is there any that come to mind?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, one of our more prominent international markets is definitely the Asian Pacific and Australia. It's partly because, BFT started there, and so we bought that brand with 150 stores that were already operating, and then it's close to 300. But yeah, I'd say example with, our Stretch Lab, which is again one of our top performing concepts. We have 900 licenses awarded on that brand alone, over 400 studios operating in the US. But like, in Asia, it's very interesting. They're way ahead of even the US in terms of, how beneficial dedicated stretching is. And so they grabbed a hold of this, really quickly, and we're seeing really high performance there as well with that brand. So it's really interesting to see how, this is really worldwide. I've developed other brands that, your investor could make an argument and say, well, this is maybe not going to play as well in a conservative market, or et cetera. But fitness is just really global. It really is. I always kind of say your market is no different than anybody else's. Maybe from a real estate perspective, you have a little bit of an argument when it comes to if you're opening in New York or Manhattan or San Francisco. Yeah, your market's different, but in general, this is really a global type of space.
I love that. Yeah. And it seems to be similar for other international brands. I was talking to Paul Preston at Aquatots, and he was like, doesn't matter where you are in the world, people love their kids, and that spoke volumes. And then I was talking to the CEO of Uno's Pizzeria, and he said, we do have to flex a little bit. People love pizza, but they might not love pepperoni. They might not love hamburger. The supply chain is different. So, some places we might put guinea pig on, so it flexes there, but ultimately, like, if you have a great brand and you have a concept that transcends culture, it's going to be successful. Chris, what are your plans for, My Salon Suites going forward? Are you looking to go global? Are you looking to saturate North America? Are you going to try and get me to buy one? Please don't. I keep saying no more kids, no more brands, but God knows. So what are
We'll
your
talk about that later. Yeah, we actually are. We're very proud that we're going to be stepping into Canada by the end of this year. So we are looking to expand a little bit more across North America. I do anticipate eventually we'll move down to the Mexico markets as well, and then from there, who knows? The sky's really kind of the limit for us. To Lance's point earlier, 90% of our member tenants are women owners, and 90% of their customers are women as well. But when we look at our ownership base, it is right even keel at around a 50-50 split between men and women that own these concepts. And I think that, a lot of folks hear My Salon Suite or Sola Salons or Salons by JC or any of our competitors, and they immediately think that the traditional salon approach is hair, nails, and eyebrows. But we really focus on the health and beauty space. And so anything outside of maybe your fitness individuals, we can offer them that platform to launch their business. So regardless of the market, regardless of where we're at, health and beauty and wellness is a key topic for almost every market out there in the world. If you go back to the COVID pandemic, right, and you look at what was the number one statement we always kept hearing is the biggest spreader out there during the early parts of that pandemic, it was hair and nail salons, right? And so people proved to this industry that they will take looking good and feeling good considerably more so than maybe being healthy traditionally. And
having
so,
a global
that's
virus.
it's true. And so it does give us a very strong confidence that no matter where we look in the world, this is a model that can be a good fit, can offer services and provide launching pads and runways for health and beauty professionals.
I love that. And it's so true. A lot of times in home services, I know I keep mentioning it because it's really my bread and butter, but it's like, oh, your house is always going to be dirty. There's always going to be pests. You got to get rid of them. But even more than that, a lot of times they say, fitness, oh, it's sexy, it's expensive, it's, like I said, a one-hit wonder. I think that crosses over even more to home services because everyone wants to look good. Everyone needs to feel good, and they're going to go and find resources to do that because in this day and age, you simply cannot do it alone. And I think that that's so true to what you bring to franchising, Chris. So, I really love what you guys are doing there, because it's not only extending it to clients and franchisors, but to your salon professionals as well. Gabby, what's next for ThriveMore? I mean, do you guys see it heavier on a female male side in terms of ownership? Are you guys going to expand globally? What's Gabby Powers got up her sleeve? You're not even wearing sleeves, but you know what I mean.
It's still pretty hot down here in North Carolina, so I'll hold on to my short sleeves for as long as I can. When we're looking at our brands, obviously bringing on additional brands is always a priority for us to be able to add to our platform and the value that we give there, the learnings we can give to our current franchisees. As far as demographics for owners, we really saw Rockbox be very split 50-50, whether it's, couples coming in, partners coming in, male to female. Boxing does have a lot of masculine energy. So I think we can see boutique fitness, but boxing for sport in that kind of concept be very congruent. On the Beam side, I've actually been surprised. Beam is a very feminine brand. It's very influencer friendly, but we've seen just as many males come in as females, male partnerships even coming together, business partners. So we've seen really a solid option there for us and growing, and people seeing the value of the brands and seeing the ability to invest and to make a healthy profit while also being able to transform lives in a unique way. And so for demographics, we see it really split. For us moving forward, really looking to infuse technology into our studios and the experience to continue to deliver more value to our members and make the lives of our franchise owners even simpler. And so infusing AI, we've done it with Beam, and we're doing it currently with both brands to really maximize that user experience, but then ultimately deliver more value to employees and franchisees. That's kind of our next couple of months of strategizing and planning to really ultimately move into 2024 in a really strong place.
I love that. And oftentimes, bringing up technology, franchises say, no, we're a tech company that provides, a different brand or a different service. So, it's integral to have that technology backing, because without it, things will fall apart. And Carolyn, round us up here. What is next for Gymguyz? Josh Dork is all over the place, in terms of your growth, the motivation, and, on the back end in the fundamental space, what are your plans?
Well, if you ask Josh, it would be world domination,
Sure.
and as quickly as possible. So we are looking to expand globally. So I've got a couple of people looking, one in the Asia market and another in Australia. And those are two incredible markets as far as health and wellness go. So growth.
Well, hopefully you'll get to go to both as the franchise developer and be like,
yeah, right.
Well, guys, we're going to give you about 15 minutes left of your time, but Lance, I do want to end with you. What advice do you have to franchisors out there that are looking to follow in your footsteps, that hope one day maybe they too get to ring the bell? If you guys didn't see that, there's this big thing about them ringing the bell, going public, having a lot of great international and national brand awareness. So what advice would you have for people hoping that one day that's them?
Oh, wow. Don't go
No
public.
pressure.
No, I'm kidding. That was definitely a bucket list, thing for me. It was pretty cool. But I would just stay focused on doing what you do best. And we've always kind of stayed in our lane and really continue bringing great partners in and continue providing great support there because you're going to share in their success. And gosh, I don't know what else to say on that one, but the public world's an interesting world. It's not for everybody. For us, it's been pretty exciting, I would say. But we've just really been blessed with our growth and what we've been able to do.
And to the founders that are hustling, which I'm sure you are no stranger to, how are you balancing that with your work-life balance too? We work in the health and wellness space. We know that it can't be too far one way. So as you're growing internationally, what advice do you have to make sure that you're still having that healthy balance of home life as well?
You asking me that question?
I sure am.
I'm a huge believer in building great teams. Just build a winning team culture. I am so proud of the team that I have. Literally every one of them has been with me probably for over a decade, and I have about a dozen of them. And so we're like family. So if you build that winning team culture, it's not work anymore. And for me, it allows me to really empower my team members to kind of rise up and do what they do and do it really well. And that creates flexibility for me and what I do, so I don't become a slave to this. And so that's my 2 cents: is build a great team and then make sure they have all the tools to be successful, give them support and great leadership, and then let them do what they do.
I love it. And what a perfect way to end. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. You guys can connect with all of them on LinkedIn and of course, check out their brands online. I look forward to watching you guys grow. And then coming up in January, we'll have our 3rd franchise summit, which will be child and pet services. My nanny was like, that sounds weird. I was like, all right, well, it can't all be fancy fitness, beauty, wellness. So, but again, thanks so much, guys. And we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.